Watching Malama Aina. It's a show for people who care about the Hawaii that we leave to our kids. This evening we have Jeff Walters. He's the seal expert with NOAA. And Jeff, tell us a little bit about the seal, why it's important to Hawaii, and
Okay. Well, thanks, Bill, for having me. It's a real honor to be on the show. I really appreciate it. So Hawaiian monk seals are one of the oldest species of seals there are on Earth. The species goes back about 13 million years. There's 3 species within the genus Monachus that have been around. Like I said, they're an old species. So there's a Caribbean monk seal, which is extinct, unfortunately. There's a Mediterranean monk seal, which there's about 400 to 500 left, and they're holding on, but just barely as a species. And then we have the Hawaiian monk seal, which is doing, I guess, better than the other 2, but they're still, the population is still in pretty bad shape. All of the evidence that we have suggests that the monk seals have been in the Hawaiian archipelago for millions of years, for at least 3 million years. So as the islands chain has grown and moved up, as the hot spot has moved and the islands have moved, the monk seals have occupied the islands over the thousands and millions of years that they've been here.
And give us a little life history. What's the...
So monk seal, the mother gives birth to 1 pup, more or less every year, although they skip a year after a few years usually. They nurse that pup for about 6 weeks, 5 to 7 weeks, and they're on the beach pretty much most of the time. The mother doesn't feed or much. She's mostly dedicated to the pup nursing. And after that, after about 5 to 7 weeks, the mother needs to go and take care of herself and restore her energy supplies. And so she leaves the pup on the beach, and the pup weans. That's when the pup weans. And so for the next few couple of months, then the pup is on its own, and it needs to learn how to take care of itself, which can be a tough time, but usually they have enough fat stored up that they do okay in a good scenario. And then they start to learn to forage, and they grow up to be, adult monk seals.
So after about 6 weeks, they're on their own?
After about 6 weeks, they're on their own.
Nobody teaches them how to go find food?
No, they don't. I mean, there may be a little bit of practice swimming with mom before mom leaves, but they need to go on and learn most of that by themselves. Yeah. So they generally are feeding on bottom-dwelling fish that are associated with the bottom. It's a wide variety of prey that they eat, including fish and invertebrates like taco, octopus, squid, lobster, and a wide variety of fish. It's mainly, though, fish that are on the bottom. If I was talking to one of my scientist friends recently, and we were talking about how you describe the fish that they eat, and it's going to be fish that if you scare them, they head for the bottom, or either they're at the bottom already. So that humu that was just up on the screen it's the kind of fish that among the species that they eat. So the prey does overlap with fish that human fishers target for there, but then there's a lot of other fish and invertebrates that they eat that are not targeted and are not caught by humans, just because they're under rocks, they're in the sand flats, they're just not the kind of fish that get into on people's laps.
I understand there's a problem with the survival of the young seal.
Yeah, so the population overall is in a steep decline. If you look at the population overall, there's about 1,100 seals total in the population total, and that population is declining at a very rapid rate. And we have a graphic up on the screen that shows the red line, if you can see it, is the northwestern Hawaiian Islands population, somewhere less than 1,000. And that's declining. This graph is a projection by our science center, Pacific Islands Fisheries Science Center, of a model that they have, which is based on pretty good data. We think it's a pretty reliable projection. If things don't change, we're going to see the continued drop in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands of about 4% per year, actually more than 4% per year. And in a much smaller population, the main Hawaiian Islands, which is that, I think it's a blue line that starts at the bottom. And then that green line at the top is the total of adding the main and the northwestern Hawaiian Islands together. So over the next 20 years, we're looking at a pretty steep overall decline if we don't do anything and if the trends continue. So, you know, the next question is, why is the population declining so badly in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands? And it's a variety of factors, but the overriding one is poor survival of the juveniles. Only one out of 5 pups or juveniles survives to reproductive age, or even to 3 years old. And so they're, okay, why is the survival so low? It has primarily to do with food limitation. They're not getting taking on enough food over that time, and we think they're basically starving to death. So up on the screen now, we have a graphic that shows the problems in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, with food limitation being one, the most important one, and then the other ones are shark predation and entanglement. Right now, disease is not a huge problem, but it is a big concern because they are a vulnerable species, that they've been isolated out here in the Pacific, and they haven't been exposed to other diseases that actually are affecting marine mammals, for instance, on the West Coast, like West Nile virus and morbillivirus, which is it's kind of like distemper. And so we're concerned about that getting into the population here. So that's all of that combined is causing a serious decline in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands for seals. In the main Hawaiian Islands, we have a much smaller population, maybe no more than around 200 or so, 150 to 200 animals down here in the main Hawaiian Islands now. But that population is growing fairly quickly and fairly rapidly. And we don't see that low survival of the juveniles. Most of the juveniles do quite well. They get plenty of food. They grow up. They do really well. So our programs, you know, kind of break off depending on where we're talking about, the main Hawaiian Islands or the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. And then,
is there an interaction between populations?
Not really. There's not like a big migration from northwesterns to mains. It's really interesting. The Science Center, NOAA Fisheries, Pacific Islands Fisheries Science Center, has a great research program that's been going on for many, many years, and they know almost every seal that's been born in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They know it because they put a tag on it, they've ID'd it, and so they know if a seal shows up in the main Hawaiian Islands, they know who it is, almost all of them. And so we're not seeing a lot of seals coming down. Every once in a while, you'll see a seal, and they'll say, "Oh, that seal was born up somewhere," but that's very rare. Most of the population growth is seals that were born here and are starting to. Those mothers are starting to have pups, and those pups are doing well. And so the growth rate in the main Hawaiian Islands is a natural growth rate from births happening here, and not from migration from somewhere else.
I would think that it's important to know when seals in the main islands are hauling up on the beach, and how people should interact with them.
Right. So that's getting back to how, you know, if people want to help monk seals, or how they can interact with our program. The emphasis on the main Hawaiian Islands is just trying to have peaceful coexistence, giving the seals some space to do what they need. They need to haul out on the beach and rest. That's mainly what they need down here, is to just, they seem to be doing well. We don't really need to do much with them except give them space. Sometimes they will get into places where it's not good for them to be, and sometimes it presents a risk to people. So for instance, we don't want them up on a road. We don't want them lying on a boat ramp, you know, and so there is some management we need to do to keep those animals in a good place. And we want to keep working with the community to improve that.
It's important for people not to feed the
oh,
seal,
yes,
because
that's a really good
then
point.
They start depending on people instead of themselves.
And thanks for bringing that up, because feeding seals is, even though we can understand that it sometimes seems like something, maybe something that an animal needs. Maybe he's hungry, or maybe if I give him a fish, he'll go away. But no, they're really smart. It just takes once, and then they'll start associating people with food, and they'll start following people around, and that's not what we want them to do. So it's really pleased that
it's bad for the seal and it's dangerous for the people.
Exactly. If there's one message to get out about Maine and Hawaiian Islands, is please don't feed a seal. Please don't try to feed a seal.
So enjoy watching them, but leave them alone and give them space.
Exactly. Watch from a distance is best. And, we talk about 150 feet, the rule of thumb. If you can hold your thumb out and if your thumb can cover the body of the seal, then you're back a good distance. And you can still, it sounds kind of small, but actually in real life that you're getting a good view of the seal. And, binoculars are good, telephoto lenses are good. If you want to get more involved, then there are volunteer networks on all the islands. Otherwise, just get in touch with NOAA Fisheries Pacific Island Regional Office, and we'll hook you up with the volunteer network on your island. We have a great one on Oahu. It's Hawaiian Monk Seal Response Team Oahu is the name of the group here. That we get a call of seal, we go out and the volunteers go out and make sure it's okay. And sometimes they'll put a rope around it, sometimes they won't, depending on the situation.
How can you enforce regulations in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands when it's so vast an area?
That one I don't have a good answer for. I think we're looking at some more modern surveillance techniques, that I'm not really privy to, but I do know that they're looking at, remote sensing and other things like that.
Satellites to see what's going on?
Yeah, I guess.
Is Coast Guard involved?
Oh yeah, Coast Guard is a really important enforcement agency for us, for NOAA Fisheries, and we also have our own Office of Law Enforcement, OLE. Up there in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, it's the Papahanaumokuakea National Monument, and that one is, they have their own enforcement plan, and I must say I'm not that up on enforcement.
You're more on the science side.
Well, yeah, I'm just, for me, for the monk seals up there, there's not an enforcement issue. The seals they're food limited, they're getting entangled, and they're getting bitten by sharks. And unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, that's not an enforcement issue. That's a management issue. That's an animal management.
Talk a little bit about your management programs out there.
Okay, so what we're hoping to do is to keep our field camps going so that we can continue to disentangle. Every summer we send the Science Center sends crew up there, so we want to try to keep doing that, to keep disentangling the seals that we do find, to save them. We have a very small but important shark mitigation program, so we want to, it's a very small group of sharks that just at one place at French Frigate Shoals. We think it's atypical behavior. We want to remove those sharks, and then we have a graphic up on the screen that kind of shows how we're going through a NEPA process right now to do an EIS to give us more options to help that juvenile survival situation. So it's shark removal, it's in disentanglement. We are looking at translocations, and we will hear that. We will hear that coming up, so stay tuned for the concept of translocation. There's a lot of details to work out, but it is something that we want people to start thinking about and working with us. And that means taking the seals that would die probably in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, they would otherwise die because they're starving to death right now, taking some females to the main Hawaiian Islands, carefully letting them go in the wild, tracking them till they each reach about age 3, and then taking them back up there, hopefully very healthy, very fat and well nourished, to where they can have their own pups and keep the population going.